Democrats hate to be reminded that the civil rights movement was actually about equality and not about extra rights and privileges for minority groups. But of course, anytime you remind them about that, they will blow a gasket, as is what's going to happen here with Representative Lateefah Simon going crazy on the simple fact that people are talking about Martin Luther King's actual words. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Under DEI, no longer are skills valued because it forces people to judge a man based on his color of his skin rather than the content of his character. We're all created unique men and women in God's image, each with unique talents.
Do you guys agree with yes or no, do you agree with Dr. Martin Luther King's statement that people should be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin? Mr. Langton?
Absolutely.
Dr. Smith?
Yep.
And Dr. Glock?
Absolutely.
And Dr. Harper?
Martin Luther King would absolutely be repulsed by the politicized attacks on diversity, equity, inclusion.
So you're not going to say yes or no? Yes or no?
For.
You got to say yes or no.
No.
This is a very, very difficult conversation. I'm a great granddaughter of someone who had a literal yoke on her neck. A literal yoke. And I will give the 4.5 minutes of my time to my people from Malvern, Arkansas, from those fields. And I want to be clear that 4 out of the 5 of you last year posted on your social media the words of Dr. King. And there are so few folks who actually have studied, who are clear on the theology of freedom of King. Very few of you have read and studied and have sat in Ebenezer Baptist Church. So I would ask you, you keep Dr. King's name out of your mouth. If you, like me and the many scholars who will be watching, studied King, you know that he and the mothers and the fathers of the civil rights movement and of the movement for emancipation not only would be struck by the conversations in this room, but would be shattered by the consequence of lives, of hatred, of abuse of this administration in the name of folks who worked to make this country more free. Children of Abraham, for real. I want to be clear for the young people that are listening today here in this audience, this conversation is not about an acronym. It's just not. It's just not. This is a conversation. It's an attack. It's an attack on what you see right here. Now, see, who's on this side of the dais? This was never the plan. It was never the plan to have people of color in positions where they would be able to speak from this place. In fact, folks had to fight tooth or nail to gain access to the front door to this Capitol. I want to be very clear about that. Today's hearing says quietly and actually out loud who the majority believe is allowed to belong in this country. They use Dr. King's name in deep vein, who has a place in the hierarchy that was never meant to be questioned. The majority is leading a coordinated effort, I want to be clear, to push us back to a segregated America based on race, based on ethnicity, based on national origin, based on sex, based on sexual orientation and gender identity and disability. Inclusion, as a disabled woman, they have been very, very clear, including folks who look different than the standardized white man in this country, folks who are disabled, folks who love differently. Those folks should not be at the center of power. That's the plan. They are motivated by a fear of a multiracial and a multicultural democracy, a fear that freedom of co-equal citizens living as their authentic selves with pride and a fear, they have a fear of accountability.
Okay, that of course is California Rep Lateefah Simon, and she's making several assertions, one of which of course is that Republicans are trying to push us back to segregation. Well, let's go ahead and think about this. Is it Republicans or Democrats that's actually going for separate spaces between black students, white students, Hispanic students, etc., right? Is it Republicans or Democrats trying to have separate colleges, separate graduation ceremonies, separate dorms? Which party is actually pushing for segregation today, all right? And also, which party actually ended segregation, right? Did you think about that for a second? And of course, she has to start out her remarks by saying that her ancestors were slaves. They had literal yokes around their necks. That's awful. I don't know anyone out there who doesn't acknowledge that slavery was terrible, right? Awful things happened. But guess what? We fought a war to end it. And now fast forward a couple hundred years, and guess what? You are an elected member of the House of Representatives. This is no longer the 1960s or the 1800s, right? There is nothing holding you back at this point in time. And as a matter of fact, we have several laws saying that if any type of discrimination is found in the workplace, etc., that you can go ahead and sue the pants off of people, okay? That is the point we're at in America. But of course, when you bring up the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s own words, you had better watch your mouth. You can't even quote him because obviously, if you're Republican, you're the terrible one, okay? But honestly, even that line was taken from Ayanna Pressley, right? She said this several months ago and got a much different reaction from the Republicans sitting in the House chamber.
And I'd also just like to take a personal note of privilege to say, please keep Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s name out of your mouths. Yes. Your perversion of his words and his mission when his children have asked you to stop invoking his name and perverting his work when he was a proud and unapologetic black man fighting for equality for black Americans and all marginalized people.
I appreciate my Democrat colleague for exemplifying exactly the kind of oppression of freedoms that we're referencing. How about we'll quote whoever we want to quote? How about that's my First Amendment right? That's exactly the kind of baked-in oppression. Like, how dare a white Republican quote Martin Luther King? We actually had a congressman say that just now in this committee. Well, thank you, good lady, for once again exemplifying the type of oppression that we stand against. You know I'm right. You know I'm right.
So I believe the real reason why the Democrats are making this big push to not allow the quotations of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is because it destroys their whole equity argument, right? They want to have the equality of outcome without any of the effort, any of the trials, any of the blood, sweat, and tears that goes along with success in this country, right? That's the aspect the Democrats are determined to leave out whenever we're talking about equality, right? And that's exactly why your average everyday American has turned against this DEI garbage. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.